The fist connected with bone in a sickening crack that echoed through Lincoln High's cafeteria. 400 phones captured the moment Colton Hayes, star quarterback and golden boy of Pittsburgh's wealthiest suburb, crumpled to the floor with his jaw hanging at an impossible angle. Blood mixed with bacon bits scattered across the linoleum. But this wasn't how the day started. This was how 3 years of torment finally ended. 3 hours earlier, Miriam Rosenberg knelt in the empty music room, morning light filtering through dusty windows as she whispered the Shema. The Star of David pendant at her throat caught the sun. She was one of 12 Jewish students among 1,500 at Lincoln High, where being different meant wearing a target. "Look at the show-off," someone muttered from the doorway. Miriam didn't turn. She'd learned that reacting only made it worse. Her fingers traced the worn Hebrew letters in her grandmother's prayer book, the same one that had somehow survived Bergen-Belsen each morning. She found strength in these quiet moments before the storm. The first bell rang. Time to face another day. If you're feeling that rush of what's going to happen next, hit that like button. It really helps more people discover these stories. And if you want to share where you're watching from, drop it in the comments below. For those who want to support more stories like this one, there's a thanks button right under this video. Every contribution, no matter how small, helps me bring you more inspiring tales of courage and standing up for what's right. Thank you for being here. Now, let's see what happens when push comes to shove. In AP History, Mr. Garrett was setting up his projector when Miriam slipped into her seat. Destiny Washington, her only real friend, nudged her with an elbow. "Girl, you see Colton's story last night," Destiny whispered. Miriam shook her head. She'd blocked him 2 years ago. Not that it stopped anything. "Trust me, you don't want to know." But Miriam already knew. It was always the same. Ever since sophomore year when she'd politely turned down his invitation to homecoming, explaining she only dated within her faith, Colton Hayes had made her life a calculated hell. Today, we're discussing resistance movements during the Holocaust, Mr. Garrett announced, his eyes finding Miriam with something like sympathy. "Who can tell me about the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising?" Miriam's hand rose automatically. This was her history, her family's truth. The uprising began April 19th, 1943. She began, her voice steady and clear. Jews in the Warsaw Ghetto fought back against Nazi forces with smuggled weapons and homemade bombs. They held out for 27 days. Longer than Poland held out. Someone snickered from the back. Colton's crew. Mr. Garrett's jaw tightened. "That's enough. Mason." But Miriam continued, her voice growing stronger. "My great-grandmother's sister fought in that uprising. Sarah Rosenberg. She was 17 when she died throwing Molotov cocktails at German tanks. 17. Our age." The room fell silent. Even Mason had nothing to say to that. "They knew they couldn't win," Miriam said, standing now, addressing not just the class but something deeper. "But they fought anyway, because sometimes standing up matters more than winning." The applause started slowly. Destiny first, then others, until most of the class was clapping. Mr. Garrett didn't stop them. From his seat by the door, Colton Hayes watched with eyes like winter ice. His phone was already out, thumbs moving. Show-off Jew thinks she's special. Time to remind her she's not. After class, Miriam found her locker already decorated. Someone had used bright red lipstick to draw a Star of David with Gas Chamber Express written inside. The janitor, Mr. Williams, was already there with cleaning supplies. "I'm sorry, honey," he said quietly. "I'll get this off quick as I can." "It's the 47th time," Miriam said, more tired than angry. "But thank you." Mr. Williams paused in his scrubbing. "You keeping count?" "Wouldn't you?" He had no answer for that. By lunch, the whispers had started. Something was planned. Something big. Miriam could feel it in the way conversation stopped when she passed. In the barely contained excitement crackling through Colton's football crew. She was picking at her salad in the corner of the cafeteria when her phone buzzed. Unknown number. "Your grandfather survived worse. What's your excuse?" Her hand trembled as she deleted the message. How did they know about Zaid? How did they know he was in memory care now? Lost more often than found. Speaking to ghosts in Polish and Yiddish, Miriam Destiny appeared with her own tray. "You okay? You look like you've seen a ghost." "I need to visit my grandfather after school." "Want company?" Miriam smiled. The first real smile all day. "Thanks, but this is something I need to do alone." Destiny nodded. She understood about family things that couldn't be shared. The rest of the day crawled by. In chemistry, someone had left a ham sandwich on her desk. In calculus, her textbook had been defaced with swastikas. Each incident was too quick for teachers to catch. Too subtle for cameras to prove. Colton had turned harassment into an art form. After final bell, Miriam drove to Shady Pines Memory Care, where her grandfather had lived for the past year. The reception desk knew her well. "He's having one of his difficult days," the nurse warned. "Keeps talking about the camps again." Miriam found him in his room, staring at the wall where family photos hung. His hands, once so strong, trembled against his blanket. "Zaid," she said softly, "it's me. It's Miriam." His eyes found hers, cloudy with confusion. Then, suddenly, desperately clear. "Sarah," he whispered. "Sarah, you came back." Her heart broke a little more. Sarah was his sister, dead 75 years in the Warsaw Ghetto. "No, Zaide, it's Miriam, your granddaughter." His hand shot out, gripping her wrist with surprising strength. "You must learn to fight. They're coming. Sarah, the boys with their armbands. They're coming. Zaid, please. Listen." His voice was urgent, afraid. "I learned in Brooklyn. After the camps, I learned. The Irish boys. They tried to take our neighborhood, but I learned to fight. You must learn." The nurse appeared in the doorway, but Miriam waved her away. Sometimes it was better to enter his world than force him into theirs. "Tell me about Brooklyn," she said gently. His face changed, years falling away. 1951, Mickey Sullivan ruled Brownsville, said no Jews allowed past Prospect Street. But I was done running. His fist clenched. 47 fights in the shipyard, 47 wins. They called me the Jewish Hurricane. Miriam had never heard this before. "You were a boxer for survival," he said. Then, with startling clarity, "Come here, let me show you." He stood, steadier than she'd seen in months, positioned her hands, adjusted her stance. "The cross punch," he said. "Where jaw meets skull. Here." He touched the spot gently. "One shot. They drop. God forbid you need it. But if you do." He demonstrated the motion, muscle memory intact, despite everything else falling away. "Power comes from the hip. Turn your whole body, like this, for 10 minutes. He was completely lucid, teaching her the sweet science that had kept him alive in a world that wanted him dead. Then, as suddenly as it came, the clarity faded. "Sarah?" he said again, confused. "Why are you wearing those clothes? Where's your yellow star?" Miriam kissed his forehead. "Rest now, Zaid. I'll come back tomorrow." As she left, the nurse stopped her. "I probably shouldn't show you this," she said, producing an old newspaper clipping from the desk. "But I looked him up after he mentioned Brooklyn." The headline read, "Jewish Hurricane Knocks Out Irish Mob Enforcer in Brutal Third Round." The grainy photo showed a young man, impossibly young, hand raised in victory, her grandfather, survivor turned fighter. "He was something else," the nurse said. "Still is, in his way." Miriam drove home in silence, flexing her fist the way he'd shown her. Power from the hip. Turn your whole body. One shot. They drop. That night, she couldn't concentrate on homework. Her phone kept buzzing with notifications she didn't want to read. Finally, Destiny called directly. "Don't open Instagram," her friend said without preamble. Of course, Miriam immediately opened Instagram. Colton's story filled her screen. A video of her in the cafeteria, edited to make it look like she was checking him out. Caption, "Operation Bacon Day tomorrow. Who's hungry?" 127 likes. All football players. Her stomach turned. Bacon, of course, because ham sandwiches and pepperoni weren't enough anymore. They had to escalate. She was about to close the app when another story popped up. Brittany Chen, Colton's ex-girlfriend. The message was simple. "Check your DMs now." Against her better judgment, Miriam looked. "Hey," Brittany's message read. "I know we don't really talk, but you need to know what's planned for tomorrow. Colton's been obsessing over you since you rejected him. It's sick. He has this whole fantasy about breaking the Jew." Those are his words, not mine. Tomorrow at lunch, they're planning to force-feed you bacon in front of everyone. He wants to humiliate you. Please don't go to lunch tomorrow. Please. Miriam stared at the message until the words blurred. Part of her wanted to stay home, to avoid it all. But another part, a part that sounded suspiciously like her grandfather, whispered, they knew they couldn't win, but they fought anyway. She went to the garage, where her dad's old heavy bag hung forgotten, positioned her feet the way Zaide had shown her, hip turn, whole body, where jaw meets skull. Thud. The bag barely moved. Again. Thud. Still nothing. But she kept trying, kept practicing, until her knuckles were raw and her shirt soaked with sweat. She didn't notice her mother watching from the doorway until a gentle hand touched her shoulder. "Miriam, honey, what are you doing?" "Learning to fight." Her mother's face went pale. No, absolutely not. Your grandfather made me promise. No violence, not ever. They put swastikas in my textbook today, Miriam said quietly. Drew gas chambers on my locker. And tomorrow, she couldn't finish. Her mother pulled her close. And Miriam smelled lavender shampoo and the challah dough rising in the kitchen. Safe smells. Home smells. "I know what they do," her mother whispered. "It happened to me, too. In the 80s, different faces, same hate. But violence isn't the answer." Then, what is? Her mother had no answer for that either. That night, Miriam lay awake, replaying her grandfather's lesson. Where jaw meets skull. One shot. They drop. At 3 a.m. Her phone rang. The caller ID showed Shady Pines. Your grandfather's asking for you." The night nurse said, "He's completely lucid. It happens sometimes." "Zaid, Miriam." His voice was clear, present, here. "I don't know how long I have, so listen. Tomorrow, something happens. I don't know what, but I can feel it. The same feeling I had in the camps before selections. You remember what I taught you? Yes, Zayde. Good. Sometimes the world makes you choose between being a victim or being a fighter. When that moment comes, you remember we survived everything they threw at us. You have that strength in your blood. One punch to save yourself is not violence. It's survival. I love you, Zaid. I love you too, Mamela. Be strong." The line went dead. When she called back, the nurse said he was sleeping peacefully, no memory of making any call. Morning came too soon. The local news blared from the kitchen TV as Miriam picked at her breakfast. Star quarterback Colton Hayes leads Lincoln High to state championships. The senior sensation has received full scholarship offers from 6 Division I schools. We go now to his recruitment video. Miriam watched Colton's highlight reel. All American smiles and touchdown passes. No one watching would guess what lurked beneath that golden boy exterior. Her father looked up from his newspaper. "Isn't that the boy who asked you to homecoming?" "Yeah," Miriam said carefully. "That's him." "Seems nice enough. Maybe you should reconsider." Her mother's coffee cup hit the saucer harder than necessary. She said, "No, David, leave it." An uncomfortable silence settled over the breakfast table. Her parents didn't know about the harassment. She'd been too proud to tell them at first, then too afraid they'd make it worse by complaining. Now it was too late. At school, the energy was different, electric, anticipatory, like predators who'd scented blood. Miriam kept her head down, moved between classes quickly, avoided eye contact. But she could feel them watching, waiting. Mr. Garrett pulled her aside after history. "Miriam, I need you to know I've been documenting everything, every incident, every harassment. I'm taking it to the school board tonight." "Don't," she said quickly. "It'll only make things worse." "Worse?" His face reddened. "How could it be worse? What that boy and his friends do to you is criminal. His uncle is on the school board. His father owns half the businesses in town. You'll only hurt yourself trying to help me." Mr. Garrett's shoulders sagged. "This isn't right. A lot of things aren't right, but thank you for trying." He handed her a hall pass. "Take your time getting to next period, and Miriam, whatever happens, I'm on your side." She wandered the empty hallways, past trophy cases full of Colton's achievements, past banners proclaiming Lincoln pride and respect for all. The irony wasn't lost on her. In the bathroom, she splashed cold water on her face and stared at her reflection. Dark circles under brown eyes, pale skin that proclaimed her indoor life. Nothing special about her except the stubbornness that refused to let them win. "You're stronger than you think," she told her reflection. She almost believed it. Lunch period approached like a storm system, inevitable and destructive. Miriam considered hiding in the library, but Brittany's words echoed, "He has this whole fantasy about breaking the Jew." She wouldn't give him the satisfaction of her fear. The cafeteria hummed with its usual chaos. But underneath was something else. A current of excitement, of anticipation. Miriam took her usual seat in the corner. Destiny already there with worried eyes. "Girl, please tell me you have a plan. Eat lunch, go to class, same as always. Miriam, half the football team is here. That's not normal for a Tuesday." She was right. They were scattered throughout the cafeteria, trying to look casual and failing. Colton himself sat at the center table, holding court, his eyes finding hers across the room. He smiled, all white teeth and malice. Her phone buzzed. Another unknown number. 5 minutes. Jew. Hope you're hungry. Then another, your grandfather ate worse in the camps. Right. And another, time to choose your food groups. She turned her phone off, hands steady despite the fear crawling up her spine. Around her, students began pulling out their phones, the modern signal that something worth recording was about to happen. We need to leave, Destiny said urgently. Now! But it was too late. The football team was moving, casual as sharks, forming a loose circle around their table. Other students backed away, not wanting to be collateral damage, but not willing to miss the show. Mason appeared at their table, tray in hand. Hey, Miriam, brought you lunch. The tray held a bacon cheeseburger, extra bacon piled high, grease pooling on the plate. The smell hit her like a physical assault. I already ate, she said calmly. That's funny, Mason said, 'cause we watched you throw your salad away untouched. More players closed in. Destiny tried to stand, but someone pushed her back down. This doesn't involve you. They told her, stay out of it. The hell it doesn't, Destiny snapped. But there were too many of them. That's when Colton made his entrance, striding through the crowd like he owned it. Which, in a way, he did. His father's money had bought this school's silence long ago. Miriam, he said, voice carrying across the now silent cafeteria, we need to talk about your attitude problem. She found her voice. We have nothing to talk about. See, that's where you're wrong. He picked up the burger from Mason's tray, bacon dripping. You think you're better than us, chosen people, right special, different. His voice hardened. But you're not special. You're just a stuck-up bitch who needs to learn her place. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Even some of his teammates looked uncomfortable, but not enough to stop him. 2 years ago, I asked you out, Colton continued, playing to his audience. Flowers, the whole deal. And you said no because I'm not Jewish. Like my money's not good enough. Like I'm not good enough. That's not... Shut up! The mask slipped completely, revealing the ugliness beneath. I'm talking C. That's your problem. Always talking. Always showing off in class. Always rubbing your perfect grades and your Holocaust stories in our faces. Well, guess what? Nobody cares about your dead relatives. The silence that followed was deafening. Even his crew shifted uncomfortably. He'd crossed a line, and everyone knew it. Take it back, Destiny said quietly, dangerously. Colton ignored her, focused entirely on Miriam. You know what, I'm done talking. Time for you to eat like a normal American. He held out the burger. 1 bite, that's all. Show everyone you're not too good for our food. I keep kosher, Miriam said, voice steady despite her racing heart. You know that. Yeah, well, your grandfather didn't have that luxury in the camps, did he? His smile was vicious. I've been reading about it. They made Jews eat all kinds of things. Survived just fine. That's when she saw it. The calculation in his eyes. This wasn't just about humiliation. He'd researched how to hurt her most deeply. He'd weaponized her family's trauma. You're sick, she whispered. And you're about to be educated. He nodded to his team. Hold her. Hands grabbed her shoulders before she could move. Strong hands. Quarterback, trained hands. Destiny screamed, tried to help, but was pulled away. Someone help, a voice called out. This is assault. But no one moved. 400 students, and not one stepped forward. Phones stayed raised, recording everything. Mr. Garrett burst through the crowd. "Stop this immediately!" Principal Morrison materialized beside him, hand on the teacher's arm. Now, let's not overreact. Boys will be boys." "This is assault," Mr. Garrett repeated. "I didn't see any assault," the principal said calmly. "Did anyone see an assault?" Silence. Colton's grip on Miriam's face tightened. "Open wide, just one bite. Or we can do this the hard way." She kept her mouth firmly closed, eyes locked on his. In that moment, she saw everything. The insecurity, the rage, the need to break things he couldn't have. She saw a boy whose mother left, whose father bought affection, who'd never heard no without making someone pay for it. "Last chance," he warned. She said nothing. There was nothing to say. "Fine. Hard way it is." He forced the burger against her lips, bacon grease smearing across her face. "Come on, Jewish princess. Your grandfather ate worse. One bite won't kill you like it killed." Time slowed. In her mind, she saw Zaid in the camps, young and starving, saw him fighting for moldy bread, saw him surviving what was meant to kill him, saw him in Brooklyn, fists raised, refusing to be driven from one more place. She heard his voice, clear as morning prayer where jaw meets skull. One shot. They drop. Her body moved without conscious thought. The hands holding her loosened for just a moment as Colton leaned in closer, burger in one hand, her face in the other. Hip turn. Whole body. Just like Zaidi taught her. Her fist traveled through space and time, carrying the weight of every slur, every swastika, every small humiliation. It carried Sarah's resistance in the Warsaw Ghetto. It carried her grandfather's 47 victories in Brooklyn. It carried her mother's silence in the 80s and her own 2 years of endurance. Where jaw meets skull. The sound of impact would be uploaded to 1,000 social media accounts within seconds. The slow-motion replays would show the perfect form. The transfer of power. The moment Colton's eyes went wide with shock before rolling back. They'd show his jaw displacing, teeth scattering, bacon flying through the air like confetti at the world's worst party. But Miriam didn't see any of that. She only saw her grandfather's approving nod before Colton hit the ground and the cafeteria erupted in chaos. What happened next would change everything. But in that moment, standing over the fallen golden boy, while 400 phones captured history, Miriam Rosenberg felt something she hadn't felt in 2 years. Free. Outside Lincoln High. A black Escalade pulled into the visitor's lot. Colton's father stepped out, briefcase in hand, and walked toward the principal's office with the confidence of a man who'd bought his way out of every problem. He didn't know his son was unconscious on the cafeteria floor. He didn't know his wife's lawyers were about to forward years of abuse evidence to the FBI. He didn't know that in exactly 5 minutes, his carefully constructed world would come crashing down. But Principal Morrison knew he was coming. He'd been expecting this visit all day. The briefcase full of cash was just another Tuesday in a town where money talked and justice stayed silent. The principal's phone buzzed with notifications he ignored. Whatever drama was happening in the cafeteria could wait. He had business to attend to. "Mr. Hayes," he said, opening his office door. "Right on time. Please, come in." The briefcase was heavier than usual, whatever tomorrow's incident was going to be. It required a bigger payment to make it disappear. Morrison closed the door, locked it, and turned to face his benefactor with a practiced smile. "Now then," Hayes said, setting the briefcase on the desk. "Let's talk about tomorrow's incident that never happened." The cafeteria floor was slick with blood and bacon grease. Colton Hayes lay motionless, his jaw hanging at an angle that made even the toughest football players look away. 400 phones captured every second, but no one moved to help. They were too busy uploading. Miriam stood perfectly still, her grandfather's voice fading from her mind. Her knuckles throbbed. Someone was screaming. Multiple people were screaming, but all she could hear was her own heartbeat, steady as a prayer. "Oh my God," someone whispered. "She killed him. He's breathing," another voice said. "Look, he's breathing." Destiny broke free from whoever was holding her and rushed to Miriam's side. "Girl, we need to go, now." But Miriam didn't move. She was watching Colton's phone, which had fallen face up on the floor. The screen was still unlocked, notifications flooding in. One caught her eye. A contact labeled "Mom, don't delete." Someone called 911. Mason finally remembered he was supposed to be a leader. Now. The spell broke. Students scattered, some running for help, others getting better angles for their videos. Within seconds, the hashtag #MiriamPunch was born. Within minutes, it would be trending. Mr. Garrett pushed through the crowd. "Everyone back! Give him space." He knelt beside Colton, checking his pulse. "He's unconscious but stable. Nobody touch him until the paramedics arrive." That's when Principal Morrison burst through the cafeteria doors, his face purple with rage. Behind him, Colton's father followed, briefcase forgotten in his office. "What happened here?" Morrison demanded. "Your nephew tried to force-feed me pork," Miriam said, her voice carrying across the cafeteria. "I defended myself." "Assault!" Morrison roared. "This is assault. Call the police immediately." "Already did," someone called out, "and uploaded the whole thing to TikTok. It's at 50,000 views already." Morrison's face went from purple to white. "Delete those videos immediately. That's school policy." "Too late," another student said, holding up their phone. "Lincoln High Secrets just posted everything. 3 years of documentation." Hayes Sr. shouldered past the principal, seeing his son on the floor. "What did you do?" he snarled at Miriam. "What did you do to my boy?" "Check his phone," Destiny said, pointing to the device still lighting up with messages. "Looks like his mom has something to say." Hayes dove for the phone, but Mr. Garrett was faster, scooping it up. The screen showed a message preview. "The FBI has everything now. Every video, every hospital record. You're done hurting us." "Give me that phone," Hayes said, his voice dangerous. "Evidence?" Mr. Garrett said calmly. "This is evidence in an assault case. My son was assaulted. Your son assaulted a student based on her religion. That's a hate crime." Mr. Garrett's voice was steel. "And from these messages, it looks like that's not the only crime in your family." The paramedics arrived, followed closely by 2 police officers. They took one look at the scene, Colton unconscious, Miriam standing calmly. Hundreds of phones recording, and called for backup. "I need everyone to remain calm," the senior officer said. "We're going to need statements from witnesses." "I have 47 documented incidents of harassment," Mr. Garrett said, stepping forward. 3 years of systematic anti-Semitic bullying that this administration ignored." "That's slander!" Morrison shouted. "It's on video!" At least dozen students said simultaneously. while the paramedics worked on Colton, carefully stabilizing his jaw. More police arrived, then news vans, then lawyers. The cafeteria became a crime scene, but the real drama was happening online. Miriam Punch had evolved into Justice for Miriam. The original video, Colton grabbing her face, forcing bacon against her lips. Her perfect defensive punch, played on endless loop. But that was just the beginning. Lincoln High Secrets, run by a group of tech-savvy students who'd also been bullied by Colton and his crew, began releasing everything. 3 years of carefully documented harassment, videos of teachers looking the other way, audio of the principal dismissing complaints, screenshots of the football team's group chats planning each prank. One video showed Morrison meeting with Hayes Sr. in the parking lot, envelope of cash clearly visible. Another caught the principal deleting security footage after the swastika incident. A third showed him telling a crying freshman that boys will be boys after Colton's crew had tormented him for being gay. "This is illegal," Morrison screamed at the police. "Those are private recordings." Actually, one of the tech students said, pushing up his glasses, "Pennsylvania is a two-party consent state for audio, but these are all video recordings in public spaces with no expectation of privacy. We checked the law extensively." The story exploded beyond Lincoln High. National news picked it up within an hour. Jewish student defends against hate crime, competed with star quarterback hospitalized after cafeteria incident for headlines, but the videos told the real story. Colton was loaded into the ambulance, still unconscious. His father tried to follow, but a detective stopped him. "Mr. Hayes, we need to ask you some questions about these messages from your ex-wife." "I want my lawyer." "That's your right. But you should know she's already filed a report. Years of domestic violence. Apparently, says she has video evidence, and now that your son is 18, she's not bound by the custody agreement's silence clause anymore." Hayes went very still. "This is that girl's fault. That Jewish—" "Sir, I'm going to stop you right there," the detective said. "Anything you say can and will be used against you." In the cafeteria, Miriam finally moved. She walked to the sink, washed Colton's blood off her knuckles, dried her hands carefully. The police wanted to question her, but her parents had arrived with their lawyer. "My daughter was defending herself against a hate crime," her father said, angrier than she had ever seen him. "We'll cooperate fully, but she's not saying anything without counsel present." Her mother just held her, whispering prayers of thanksgiving in Hebrew. The story took on a life of its own. By evening, Miriam Punch had been viewed over 10 million times. Celebrities weighed in. Politicians made statements. The phrase, "where jaw meets skull," became a rallying cry for bullied kids everywhere. But the real bombshell came that night. A woman nobody had seen in 5 years did a live interview on national television. "My name is Rebecca Hayes," she said, looking directly into the camera. "I'm Colton's mother, and I need people to know the truth about what that family does to people." She laid it all out. The abuse, the cover-ups, the bribes. How her ex-husband had trained their son to be just like him. How she'd tried to get custody but lost to money and influence. How she'd been documenting everything. Waiting for Colton to turn 18 so she could speak without losing visitation rights. "I saw the video," she said, tears streaming. "I'm horrified by what my son did, but I'm not surprised. This is how he was raised. This is what his father taught him. That money makes you untouchable. That other people exist for you to hurt. She looked directly at the camera again. Miriam, if you're watching, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. You did what I never could. You fought back. The interview ended with Rebecca announcing she'd provided all her evidence to the FBI. Financial crimes, assault, witness tampering, years of carefully documented crimes that money had kept hidden. By morning, Hayes Sr. was in federal custody. Principal Morrison was suspended pending investigation. 17 other victims of Colton's bullying came forward with their own stories. The school board called an emergency meeting that ended with 3 members resigning in disgrace. But Miriam didn't see most of it. She spent the evening at Shady Pines, sitting beside her grandfather's bed. He was having one of his clear moments, watching the news coverage with fierce pride. You remembered, he said simply, where jaw meets skull. She confirmed. My Sarah would be proud. You fought back. You didn't let them make you small. I was so scared. Zaid. Good. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's doing what's right despite the fear. He squeezed her hand. Now, what happens next? I don't know. I do. His eyes were bright. You teach others. You take this moment and make it mean something. Yes. Yes, Zaid. He smiled and drifted off to sleep. Her hand still in his, 6 months later. Miriam stood in a converted warehouse on the south side. 200 kids faced her, ages 8 to 18, all wearing second-hand GEs she'd bought with her college savings. The sign outside read, Sarah's Strength-Free Self-Defense for Everyone. Today we're learning the cross punch, she announced. But first, let's talk about when to use it. A small hand shot up. When bullies won't stop. Sometimes, Miriam said carefully. But violence is always the last resort. First we use our words. Then we get help from adults. We document everything. We stand together. Only when someone puts hands on you. Only when you're in real danger. Do you defend yourself? Understood. Yes, sensei. She smiled. She wasn't really a sensei. Just a girl who'd learned one good punch from her grandfather. But she'd been training hard for 6 months, learning from real instructors, preparing for this moment. The most important thing to remember, she continued, is that bullies want you to feel alone. They want you to feel weak. But you're not alone. Look around. Everyone here has faced something. Everyone here has survived something. Together, we're stronger than any bully. As she demonstrated the proper stance, she caught sight of someone in the back. Destiny, of course, helping with the younger kids, Mr. Garrett, volunteering his time, her parents, proud and supportive, even some of Colton's former victims, finding strength in community, and in the very back. In a wheelchair now, but still watching with clear eyes. Her grandfather. The news crews had finally stopped following her. The viral fame had faded. Lincoln High had a new principal and a zero-tolerance policy that actually meant something. Life had found a new normal. But every week, more kids showed up at Sarah's Strength. Kids who'd been pushed too far. Kids who needed to know they weren't alone. Kids who just wanted to feel safe. Remember, Miriam said, adjusting a student's stance, we don't train to hurt people. We train so people can't hurt us. There's a difference. She moved through the rows, watching 200 kids practice the punch that had changed everything. Some would never need it. She hoped none of them would. But if that moment came, if the world backed them into a corner and gave them no choice. They'd be ready. The last surprise came during water break. A young man approached, baseball cap pulled low, moving carefully like his jaw still hurt sometimes. "Colton," Miriam said, tensing. I wanted to apologize. In person." He pulled off the cap, revealing a face that surgery had mostly fixed, but would never be quite the same. "What I did was unforgivable. I know that, but my mom says I should try anyway." Miriam studied him. 6 months of therapy showed in his posture, the way he couldn't quite meet her eyes. The arrogance was gone, replaced by something that might have been genuine remorse. "I'm in therapy," he continued, "dealing with everything. My dad, what he taught me, what I became. I'm sorry for all of it. You didn't deserve any of it." "No," Miriam agreed. "I didn't. I know you probably hate me." "I don't hate you," she interrupted. "I nothing you. You're just someone who hurt me once. That's all you'll ever be to me." He nodded, accepting the judgment. "Fair. I wanted you to know. What you did that day, it saved me too. From becoming him. From becoming my father. So, thank you." He left, without waiting for a response. Miriam watched him go, then turned back to her students. The past was the past. This was the future. "All right, everyone, back to positions. Let's run it again. And remember, power comes from the hip." 200 voices counted in unison. 200 kids learning to stand tall. 200 futures where bullies didn't always win. Her grandfather caught her eye and nodded once. Sarah would be proud. Sometimes one punch really does change everything. But what matters most is what you do with the change. Miriam smiled and kept teaching, one student at a time, one punch at a time, until the warehouse echoed with the sound of strength being born. The local news did one final follow-up story. Showing the warehouse full of practicing students, the reporter asked Miriam what message she had for bullied kids watching. She looked directly at the camera, channeling her grandfather's strength and Sarah's courage from 75 years ago. "You are not alone. You are not weak. And sometimes, when the world gives you no choice, one moment of courage can change everything. Just remember, the real power isn't in the punch. It's in refusing to let them break who you are." The camera lingered on the sign outside Sarah's Strength, where survivors become warriors.